Welcome to Ground Up, the birth, rise, and steady climb of an authentic business agency. In today's episode, we're going to get right into content creation, how we do it, how we edit and move on the fly. It's going to be a little bit longer vlog because we've included quite a large clip of our content planning meeting, which is really a big part of our week. And it's one of the services we provide clients as well, which is that brainstorming, thinking through that planning kind of session that's part creative, but also very much planned as well. So we're gonna include that in this vlog. Hope you like it. Love to hear any comments that you have, and be sure to stay tuned for future episodes. So we're doing our content planning meeting right now, right? Which we were just talking off camera, and this is our meeting every week where we get to write down our list of hot topics for content for the agency, look at the strategy, and then the platform. So, what are some of the topics that you've been thinking about that you think we should be talking about this week?
You go first.
Okay, so first one I have is, I guess I'm gonna call it the being of authenticity. And it's really like the mindset and, it's like the mindset of authenticity. It's not just about a business strategy, but it's like, how do you live your life in an authentic way such that when you show up for work, you're not trying to like turn on authenticity. So it's really about lifestyle. So it comes in mindset, all of that kind of stuff. Cool. You talked about on Saturday night, you had some interesting ideas from watching that documentary.
Right. I should have wrote it down. It was about, just the process of where the world is going and how if you're in business, you need to switch it to an authentic, heart-centered space. Otherwise, it's going to fail.
Right.
Just because of the shift that we're seeing globally. Like
Right.
consumers are more interested in the message of the company, the whole millennial thing, right? Like
Right.
I saw on Shark Tank like a few months ago where all the millennial entrepreneurs that were showing up on Shark Tank were all about, they have a message behind their clothing brand or
Right.
whatever, like they're helping a charity or like their message, so it has a more like altruistic like meaning.
Purpose driven,
Yeah.
I think is what
Yes.
people talk about.
And so that's the shift that's happening in business. Like we're seeing companies that do have a message becoming more profitable.
Right.
And then companies, big brands, are gearing towards that. Like you see, they're slowly shifting
Right.
into that space because they're seeing the
Right.
trend.
Well, that's interesting too, because then you come into the concept of like what they call like greenwashing or pinkwashing or whatever,
Right.
where the companies or corporations will be like, "Ooh, I think this purpose-driven thing is going to be a thing. We should look into that. We should get a little charity going here. We should,
Right.
and it becomes this like surface kind of
Right.
level
Right.
thing, which is fake. So it becomes
Right.
like fake authenticity.
Right.
So, but I think what you're talking about is like genuine purpose driven.
Right, and also encouraging people that do want to create something, but they have a negative view on business because of what we've seen business to be.
Yes.
So allowing them to like see a different perspective of like you can actually use business for the good of the world, and that's what we're seeing.
Right.
That's the shift that we're seeing.
Yes, and that's interesting. The video we were watching last night, Simon, what you know vlog, you know what I'm talking about. I'll post a link in a minute or after we edit this. But he was talking about what were you just saying before?
Or else about businesses that maybe people that feel a little bit like, ugh,
Oh yeah,
business.
exactly. He was talking about how the capitalism that we see today, like the ruthless, shareholder driven, you know, like just bottom line, blah blah blah, hedge fund driven companies. He's like, that's only from from the 1980s and forward. And he was taking some big shots. He called Jack Welch a bastard like 5 times from GE, the former CEO of General Electric. And he also took Milton Friedman to task. And what he was saying was that that so many people that have turned against business and turned against capitalism are turning against the current form of it. And that's been something that I've wanted to talk about for a while, is that because we, you know, you and I, we both come from these like communities where we have like maybe more of like hippier folks and, you know, crunchy granola folks. You know, they're less, they don't have a positive view of business. And we also have like friends in the activist world, right? And they're trying to make a difference or trying to do something. But I think that's just, again, back to your point that if you're not engaged in a purpose-driven strategy, you're gonna get major criticism from the activist world, and you're not gonna be effective, you know, with the consumers in the end.
Right, and it's also the point of like, hey, like we see you like hippies, right? Like wanting to change the world.
Right.
But then they're so against the very thing that can change the world. Like
yes.
if every hippie had a successful,
right.
purpose-driven business, like how would the world look like?
Yes.
And so, not you know, because there's no really point to just like dismantle everything, to just like burn everything to the ground. But it's about like transforming and transmuting what is already here into something that's more conscious and loving. So businesses that really pretty much run the world, corporations that run the world, creating those structures, creating corporations that will run the world 20 years from now, but their intention is completely different from the corporations that we see today.
Right.
So their intentions are more like, what can this corporation, this enterprise, how can they serve the world? How can they serve the people, the planet? And so that will be the successful corporations 20 years from now.
Right.
Is the corporations that think in that space, because the other ones can't survive in just the way that the world is, right?
Right.
And so encouraging people to have that big dream, like, wow, I really want to create this. They have this like grand vision, but then they have the beliefs of like, oh no, but business is bad, corporations are bad, money is bad, all of this is bad, so I'm gonna go live in a yurt by myself, you know what I mean?
Right.
So that kind of content, like shifting, you know.
I mean, I would love to live in a yurt, maybe with some nice, a good strong Wi-Fi signal.
Oh, that would be amazing.
We have nothing against yurts, people, just to be clear. Just, you know, we want to talk about, I wrote down grounded dreamers, right? So in business, we can create this sense of being grounded in the dreams that we have. I also wrote business as service. So changing the whole model, and we wrote about that on LinkedIn recently. There's 2 articles that we posted about sales as service. So I think what I'm seeing is like a larger conversation, and it's so interesting because in the same content that we created, there was like a Facebook video which was aimed at the hippie folks, talking about why you should be getting on board with selling. And then but then the conversation on LinkedIn was a little bit different. It was a video that was for people who are, salespeople and learning how to use conscious social sales techniques, authentic selling, as a way to actually get better at selling. So it's a conversation that speaks to kind of both the hardcore business people and giving them like insights into like, hey, authenticity, you know, like heart-centered, you know, conscious, whatever kind of words you want to use. And then the other side, it's like, hey, dreamers, hey, activists, hey, people out there trying to make a difference. Have you considered that maybe the business road is one of those roads for you? Now, I know there are people that are like ideologically opposed to it, to profit, and the whole thing, they're just like, nope, not for me. But more and more people are kind of like, I feel like even of the hardcore hippier folks, they're kind of like, what? Maybe I should be doing an online business. Maybe I could be traveling and doing the work I wanted to do if I had something there.
Well, when it comes to the people that are so opposed to it, it's asking the question, well, why are you so opposed? Usually people, like, I was in that space because it's like I saw the corruption that created these models, like that came from these models. So I was so opposed by it. I was like, that's disgusting. Profit is disgusting. But just because of that, like that trigger that I had, and just because I saw how destructive it is, but nothing is good or bad. It's just how you utilize it and use it. And so, yeah.
Wow, I think we have our topics for the week. That's definitely enough to get to procreate like multiple pieces of content, video, written, things like that. So let's move into our strategy. So I've been thinking a lot about strategy. Like we have these meetings, we have these conversations about content, and then what do we do from there? What do we create from it? So there's two ways that there's like kind of just, we wake up every day for the next 4 days and we just create, document, create, keep having this conversation. So that the vlog is going to be, I think this week's vlog is going to be about the process that we're doing. So like this meeting, and then talking about how we create the content, talking about how we share it, and what the response is. So I think that's going to be the topic of the vlog this week. So that's kind of part of the strategy as well, is showing people the process. And so for the strategy for this kind of basket of topics, I definitely feel like one like longer form article, like one blog post, maybe even 1 to 2 blog posts. I would like to see at least 2 videos, right? Would you be open to shooting a video about the topic that you were talking about, either in a conversation with me or just on your own, talking about one of these themes?
Yeah, welcome to it.
Yeah, okay. Yeah, so I think that's probably good enough. Like that's good. That's really good that we have those. So we're talking about potentially 4 main pieces of content. And also I want to create questions, like conversation starter questions for both LinkedIn and Facebook.
Okay.
And maybe in the stories as well. So let's just call that like 3 social conversations. And I think that those can happen early in the week, these social conversations, to really get like, to move from idea to reality. We can actually start to hear what are people's genuine questions. So for example, LinkedIn, I want to ask a question about what scares you about authenticity as a business person, as a marketer. When someone says you need to have an authentic strategy, like what does that bring up, any concerns or fears? Because I sense that it does. I think people are like, well, does that mean I have to like go dance without my pants on in front of the thing? And it's interestingly enough, I'm going to shout out to someone I just connected to on LinkedIn, which doesn't have to be this authentic, but there was, last week was VA Day, Virtual Assistant Day.
Okay.
And so I guess this woman, Janine from the UK, she created a video of herself in a cheerleader outfit and going like, yay, VAs, pom-poms and stuff. And, she was hesitant because she's like, oh, is this appropriate kind of thing? But it was from that video, I didn't even listen to the words. I just saw it scrolling by and I was like, oh, that's hilarious. I want to talk to you, right? And so she's a marketer. And so now just by her doing that authentic thing, I've now read 2 of her articles. I've made connection with her.
Right.
She might be someone that, I might hire to work, to help me with my marketing in the future. So I think that kind of, I think I'm going to share that video. Definitely share VA Day video. But yeah, asking people on LinkedIn, what scares you? And then on Facebook, I think I'm going to go the opposite. I'm going to ask about what do you think about business?
Right.
Like, what do you feel like business could be a force for good in your life or not? And I want to hear like a real.
Like, do you think business can be a force for good in your life and like the world
Yes.
in general?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah. Exactly. Okay. So we have our strategy, I think, and then it's just about platforms. So the blog posts will be for LinkedIn and Facebook, and we'll do part of them on Instagram. Like we'll chunk some of that on Instagram. So really, like out of these 2 blog posts, we probably have 8 pieces of content potentially if we use quotations, and I use those on LinkedIn as well, like the quotations that for Instagram. So that's always good to have those there. The 2 videos, let's do one of them for IGTV, and one of them will be so IGTV vlog, you got to make sure that they're a vertical shot, and LinkedIn and Facebook looks better when you have it horizontal, and YouTube, because then if you put it vertical on Facebook, you see those like panels.
Right. Yeah,
So
that's true.
so we'll do one IGTV, one so vertical and one horizontal. Three social conversations, so that will be LinkedIn, Facebook, and maybe stories. So Instagram stories can be a good place for that. You tend to have more people engaging with your stories, so maybe that's a question that you might want to ask as you're talking about the video, like in advance. Be like, hey, what do you guys think? Is it for business force for good? Or maybe it's the other one. Maybe I don't think people that follow you are concerned about authenticity.
No.
Because like as you
Different stuff.
Yeah,
but I do want to look at Earth Heals Instagram and
Right.
build a strategy there for
Yes.
building the brand there. So
Yes.
that's something we can talk about.
So what scares you about authenticity? And is business a force for good in the world? Boom. Well, that is just over 16 minutes, folks, and we have our entire content strategy completely mapped out. So we're going to get to work, and we will see you all later. Woo! Good morning. It's Tuesday morning and just getting into work today, getting some creative content stuff done, and a couple of thoughts I had. Number one, first drafts for me are the hardest. Starting with a blank page or a blank screen and then creating the first draft, that's where my resistance to content creation comes in most. But if I am able to like start with that and move into a second or third draft, it gets a lot easier. I think for me, writing is still the core of content creation, whether that's writing text or whether that's speaking into video. I do feel like that initial creation is really what's important. And of course, design and strategy amplification can come after that, but I think that's probably where people get hung up the most is that first draft. So what I do to make sure that I nail my objectives for the day is that I do try and start with that writing piece because it tends to be the most challenging, and then once I've done it, I feel much more loose and much more open and free for the rest of the day. So even before I get into social media too much, even before I get into client calls or emails or communication of any kind, I like to start with the first things first for me, which is always writing. So I'm about to work on a second draft of a client manifesto, which is something that we do at Earth Heals Agency, to really set the framework for the whole content strategy. I love manifestos. I love the energy and the excitement and the passion that comes from like saying, this is me, this is what I'm creating, this is why I'm doing it, this is why you should care. It kind of gets my blood up in a good way. So I'll be working on that. And then I'm going to work on a second draft of my weekly blog post article. I've been working under the titles of Keys to Authentic Business for a while, and I really love that, and it gives me a lot of space to roam and room to grow. And if you remember from the last clip yesterday when we were talking about the story meetings for the week, I'm writing this week about the mindset of authenticity, the heart set, if you will, of authenticity and the lifestyle of authenticity. So yeah, looking forward to getting both of those things out this morning before lunch, and then that gives me a lot of room in the afternoon to do business development, outreach, social media, all of that stuff. So yeah, whatever you're up to, make sure that you do start with the more challenging thing first. And if that's content creation, for me, that's always writing and a first draft or a second draft. So that's all. We'll check in later. Just finished first draft of the About Us page for a client. It's interesting whenever I complete a draft, like I talked in the last segment about how kind of the anxiety I feel before a first draft. And then there's like the little bit of the anxiety after the first draft, which is like, is it really good? Like, you know, and I shared it with Tanya, and she's like, it's good. And I said, okay, listen to it again, but listen to it with a critical ear. And then she's like, yeah, I still think it's good. So that's always a fun part. And I think for me, as you know, as much as I'm an entrepreneur and, you know, a business person and an operator, I'm a writer at heart. And so I don't know any writers that always have 100% confidence in their work. So it's always just interesting to notice my reaction to how I write and how other people receive my writing. And it's something I'm working on for sure. Just sitting on the grass, having a little jam session with Tanya about the future of the agency and about the direction of it. And you know, even though this vlog is probably going to be mostly about content process, this process is something I want to share because it's, you know, the process of creation. And in this case, we're talking about the big questions like the vision for the company, the mission, you know, are we a creative content agency? Are we a authentic business agency? Are we a content, digital marketing, PR bonanza? It's like, we don't know where we're at. And that process for me feels uncomfortable of not knowing. And even though I know that this is part of the process and the discomfort is part of my process, it still feels uncomfortable. And that's a part of content creation. That's a part of any type of creation, is this discomfort. And it might look different for you. It might feel different for you. But for me, it's like this feeling of like you can see my eyes kind of squinching up and my forehead, you know, wrinkling and furrowed brow as I'm like, what do we do? Where do we go? I don't understand. What is next? And it's just, you know, part of it. And I think this is where a lot of people stop or get stopped in the creative process. It's like we enter into this phase of like foggy, uncertain, unknowing what's going to happen next. And the only thing that keeps us going is the knowledge of previous times, and that we always found a way through. You know what? We always found a way to write a story. I remember working in journalism a number of years ago, and you know, despite every day I would sit down at my desk, and some days I would feel like I don't have anything to write. By the end of the day, I'd have like multiple stories and blog posts written. So it just gave me that confidence to know that if I just keep writing my way through it, if I just keep creating my way through these creative processes, then I'll get to a good result. So just wanted to share that with you as we did our little afternoon vision building content creation on the grass, which is also a great way to do creative work outside in nature, you know? One of the biggest mistakes that I see people make in their content is trying to do too much too soon. Let's say you're on the road now, you're like, okay, I get it. Time to create content. It's top of funnel. It's, you know, the most important thing for me to do every day to make sure that I reach my audience. That's a good time to take a nice deep breath and really ask yourself, what can I commit to doing for the next year every day? Not what can I do for the next week or for the next month, but if I'm really honest with myself, what could I do for the next year of my life every day that will keep me inspired? And that's gonna cut out the kind of hyper productivity that some of us will want to bring to it. Like, I'm gonna post 10 times to Instagram a day, and I'm gonna create a vlog every 2 days, and I'm gonna be like Gary Vee, and I'm gonna talk to 80 people a day on social media. If that's you, if you really have that energy and you can passionately commit to it for a whole year and do it, and you can, go for it. It's gonna have results. But what's gonna have more results than a flash of productivity is consistency. Consistency every day. So if that means you start with one post, one picture, 3 comments a day, that's where you start. The beginning is the hardest part, and then the consistency is the second hardest part. So when you're thinking about your content strategy, you really want to ask yourself, what can I do every day? Simple. Take it easy.
Okay, so right now we are just walking to the hotel to do some work, but as we're doing that, we're looking at different visual shots that we can take for content. So what looks visually appealing, and making sure the angle is aesthetically appealing as well. And so yeah, it's just the day in the life of documenting, creating content just so we can use later, and just exploring life and playing with life and taking pictures of life.
Just finished about an hour of work. It's about 3 o'clock in the morning. One of the things I noticed is I work really fast when it comes to copy. I rip out. I just wrote like 15 taglines and created content for a website, for like 4 pages of a website, and sent off a bunch of emails, and also started looking some of my own Earth Heals agency content, reviewing that a little bit. And what I notice is that I'm super fast when the moment is right to work and to create. And then other times I spend a long time staring at a computer screen. So when it comes to content, really give yourself a lot of space and time, but know that when it comes time to actually write, when the ideas are there, it comes fast, and you got to trust it. Yeah. That's what I love about content.